Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. And today, May 11th, or around there, it's sort of fuzzy exactly what the day was, but this is as good as any, is our 5-year anniversary. Oh my God, 5 years. And as a tribute to our 5th year of ceaseless labor and chatting about music, YouTube saw fit to somehow make disappear the past 10 days of videos, which I stayed up all night last night restoring. Oh my gosh, what an ordeal that was. And I apologize for the fact that all of the comments that went with them, which were so wonderful, were lost because you can't retrieve those. I can always re-upload the video, but not the comments because the whole thing vanished. And you have to start from scratch. I really appreciate those of you, especially in the Music That You Can't Live Without series, who have reposted your lists. They're wonderful, and we're rebuilding it, and it's going to be fine. Not all of it was lost, but a batch of it was. Oh my God, I don't understand it. So that's my 5-year anniversary present from YouTube. How delightful. But, it's really interesting, actually, very interesting to take stock of where we are since we began and have some thoughts about the post-pandemic universe of classical music, because you remember we began during COVID as a way to distract ourselves, and now we only need more distraction as far as I can tell. Things are not looking as well, never mind. We're not going there. We're just going to get on to the distracting, aren't we? Oh, my word. Well, let's talk about the classical music industry. Oh, it's always so much fun. And we have to do our Norman Lebrecht update. The Norman Lebrecht update is just one of the joys of this particular job. I mean, it's an absolute masterpiece example of Schadenfreude, because on December 31st of 2003, Norman Lebrecht made the following claim. He wrote, quote, "I am about to make the rock-solid prediction that the year 2004 will be the last for the classical record industry," unquote. Yeah, right. Well, here we are, 22 years later. The classical music industry is doing what it's always done. Churn out piles of stuff, willy-nilly, promote virtually none of it, have massive upheavals in terms of, sales and mergers and acquisitions and things and hirings and firings and, plus ça change, as they say in French. The more things change, the more they stay the same. So what is going on? Well, basically, the latest bit of apocalyptic news. The apocalypse is upon us. It's always upon us if you're in classical music, but is that Sony fired its classical division, or a lot of it. Robert Russ, who did all those wonderful, wonderful boxes, and so everything is going to be clogged up there for the foreseeable future. I am not particularly surprised at that. And I'm sorry to see them go, because they did magnificent work, and I love those boxes, and I do hope there will be more of them, but maybe not. There won't be. Who knows? The fact is, we are in a period of transition, moving from physical product to online services and streaming, or maybe somehow having both exist in a sort of, whatever the market will allow things to settle into, as has happened with LPs, for example. Vinyl is back and does pretty well in small quantities. Here's the thing, and it's something I've always said: the major labels have been dead since way before Norman Lebrecht started talking about them in terms of ongoing domination of the marketplace. The exciting stuff in classical music was always at the independent labels. For the past 3 or 4 decades, that's where it's been, 2 or 3 decades. And the major labels are just libraries for reissues. And they do have the occasional major artist. But here's the difference. The difference is they don't invest any money in anything anymore. People bring projects to them, just as they bring projects to independent labels. But the smaller independent labels do not get the projects from the most famous artists. The most famous artists want to be associated with the most famous labels, so they go to the majors. But the economics is basically the same. The advantage to working with the majors used to be that they had worldwide distribution, better distribution than the independents did. Well, they still do to a degree. But you know perfectly well, they care not a bit about classical music. So what they do that's new, a new opera, a new something, somebody else pays for. It's all paid for. And they're simply a distribution channel. And they have very few new releases, remarkably few, compared to what they used to do. I mean, there used to be a whole monthly release sheet of, a dozen titles or something. Now you're lucky to get one or two things every couple of months. So what are they doing? They're doing reissues. And to do a reissue program, you need one person who knows what they have and knows how to put together a program, because everything else is farmed out. You don't need a fully paid full-time institution to do reissue boxes. My very, very dear friend, Dr. Zerlin Meyer-Eller from Munchkin, from Munich, who sometimes appears with me on this channel, he was responsible for all kinds of reissue projects. I mean, he managed Virgin Records for Germany and produced a ton of really interesting recordings. He took care of SWR's reissue program and did the Michael Gielen edition and the Hans Rosbaud edition and all of that. I mean, beautifully produced, excellently annotated, painstakingly researched. He created the entire Naxos audiobooks line for Germany, the German audiobooks line, all by himself. That was it. He was the guy. He did it all. I mean, and what he didn't do, the graphic design work, or so, you had somebody who did it, and that was it. All he needed was the tapes, and out it came. So these major labels that had departments for classical music with multiple people, they don't need any of it anymore. So they're not wrong to trim down. The issue is what's going to happen to what they have. What are they going to do with it, actually? And that depends on them having somebody there who knows something about their catalog and what needs to be issued, and and how to do it in a classy kind of way. Because there's no question that the boxes, once they issue them, sold well. I didn't lose money on the product itself. There was a profit margin in there for sure. The issue is whether or not it covers the expense of maintaining an entire classical wing of the company. And I can easily understand that it doesn't, or it may not, or they've just decided to take another direction. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But is it the apocalypse? No, of course it's not. We've heard the same crap over and over and over. It's the end. It's all going down the tubes. It's never going down the tubes. It's never going down the tubes because there is so much money and activity in classical music performance. And the only question is, how does that performance stuff reach us through the medium of recording? Is it going to be an online thing? Is it going to be a physical product? Everyone's going to have their own solution, depending on the economic resources that they have at their disposal and their access to the marketplace. That's the only thing that matters, folks. Nothing else is relevant. So as long as you've got all these performing arts organizations, we're going to have stuff, and lots of stuff. Because that's, if anybody who casts a reasonably objective, mildly not delusional view of what's been happening over the past 30 years or so, there's no other conclusion, because the evidence speaks for itself. We have tons and tons and tons of product. Everybody's making recordings. They're shoving them out willy-nilly. And, sometimes you've got CDs, sometimes you've got downloads, streaming or whatever, YouTube videos. It's a billion different ways, but they're doing it, and they're going to keep doing it, whether or not the record labels take over. Actually, there's a wonderful example of how they're doing it. Actually, kind of comes from good old Norman Lebrecht himself. Yes, because he concludes his 2003 bit of complete bullshit nonsense prognostication with the following lament. Quote, I shall particularly regret the loss of comparability, our future inability to concretize, oh my God, pompous ass, to concretize Simon Rattle's never to be recorded Bruckner fourth in the context of past masters. Well, let's be clear. 3 years later, that very recording, Bruckner's fourth, with Simon Rattle, was released. And it was indeed Bruckner. It's just god-awful. And to make things even more juicy, here's the schadenfreude part. Just 3 years ago, Rattle did it again. He did it with the London Symphony. I mean, the only difference being he added like other editions and versions of things that, Bruckner never wrote or whatever it was. It was even worse. I mean, more horrible than the one with the Berlin Philharmonic. So yes, we had more than the opportunity to concretize that magnificent vision. It was, boy, I mean, concrete was probably a better term than Lebrecht originally thought to describe those performances. Ossified might have worked too, but yes, they were quite seriously concretized. But what happened? Here's the point. What happened? Well, initially, Warner released it as part of their hapless attempt to document the relationship of Simon Rattle and the Berlin Philharmonic, which created a big box of mediocrity, which we discussed at one point. But then, with Warner out of the picture and Simon Rattle no longer in Berlin, the LSO had its own label. And so they issued one. Why not? I mean, the source of recordings changed, but the fact of recordings did not. And that's the point. So that's my thought on the state of the classical music industry right now. It's same old, same old. Some things change, but the volume of activity has remained really pretty consistently crazy over the past decades, and I don't see that changing at all. I really don't. So take heart, people. We're going to have plenty of things to talk about for the next 5 years, I have no doubt. But meanwhile, I do want to say, it has been 5 years. I have made more than 4,700 videos as of this date, May 11th, 2025. I never could have dreamed I would be doing this way at this time. It continues to be a thrill. I'm hoping after I get to 5,000, which will probably be in the next 3 months or so, or 4 months, I may slow down a little bit and just do a couple a day. But then again, I say that every year, and it seems not to change. And the reason it doesn't change, the other evidence, is that the volume of things to talk about and things that come out and stuff that gets issued is still overwhelming. It's overwhelming. I mean, look at this stuff, and you see the overflow room, and I've got just buckets of things sitting here. I mean, just crap loads of CDs and stuff. It's unreal. Ugh, how much stuff there is that we could be doing. I could be doing this full time. I could be doing 50 videos a day and still not make a dent. It's really, really astounding. And then, of course, there are all the other things we get to talk about, just the chats and the lists and the other things that we have so much fun with. So yeah, you don't have anything to worry about. Just don't worry. We'll just take it as it comes. We'll celebrate what's great. We'll crap all over and laugh at the stuff that sucks and have a grand old time doing it. And I just thank all of you for participating, for joining in, for making this the happiest period of my life, the most satisfying and fulfilling, to be able to share with you my love of music and to experience your love of music and to learn from you, just as you learn from me. It's an entirely positive experience. And I have no intention of slowing down or stopping. And I look forward to the next 5 years. Thank you all so much for your support, your encouragement, your enthusiasm, your comments, your wit, your wisdom, your opprobrium sometimes. It's all terrific. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you, and I love you all. Take care.